Hi, my name is Selena. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be doing the Finally Fall book tag. A bit late because I'm pretty sure, you're supposed to do this right at the beginning of fall so you can really appreciate how it's finally fall. But it's been fall for a while, and honestly where I live, fall came really late this year, so the leaves have just started being turned completely. Usually at this time of year here, they'd be the leaves would be gone. So it's pretty much like I'm doing this in September. So without further ado, let's just get started. Number 1, in fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. Okay, so I have a couple, and I have a physical copy of one of them, but I don't really want to get it out because then it will knock over Silver in the Wood. First one, I'm going to go with a recent read, For the Wolf by, what's her name? Hannah Witten. Yeah, I read this in October, and this is like a Beauty and the Beast retelling with the aesthetics of Little Red Riding Hood is how I would pitch the fairy tale aspect of this. And it's about a girl who, she's the second daughter, so she is for the wolf, which means that she will go into this literally blood-sucking forest and present herself to this monster called the wolf. And things are not what they seem, because the wolf isn't really that much of a monster, and the forest is blood-sucking, but it's also a more complicated situation than our main character, Red, realizes, and she has a much bigger role to play. So that's how I want to describe that. I had a copy of this book. I was reading it. I was really enjoying it. I got it very wet in the rain, so I passed it on to my boyfriend. He's going to read it. I'm going to get a new copy. But I really did like this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I wouldn't say this is an atmospheric book, but I do think the setting is vivid. The trees are very stark white, and I just feel like I can see the forest very well, and this forest castle very well. Even if it's not necessarily an atmospheric book that I can feel, I can definitely see it, and vivid is all this said. So that's the first one. Second one, Drowned Country, which is the sequel to Silver in the Wood, which is over here. Drowned Country is this little novella. You do have to read Silver in the Wood first, so definitely read Silver in the Wood first. But I found Drowned Country to have a more vivid setting than Silver in the Wood. Both of these novellas have a magical forest as well, but I felt like I could see it much more clearly in Drowned Country. Since it's the second book, I don't really want to say anything. And then for a more wintry setting, as we are getting into winter, Spinning Silver. I love that book. It has a very wintry, vivid setting that I highly recommend you read. Number 2, Nature is Beautiful but Also Dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. Okay, so I have 2 for this, and they're both actually middle grade. So the first I read quite a while ago, King and the Dragonflies, and by the way, this also is a very vivid setting. It takes place in the Louisiana Bayou, so very good. I really enjoyed this book. This was a wonderful middle grade contemporary book dealing with things like grief and loss, and it is also dealing with sexuality and with what to do when your family does not always either have your best interest at heart or is not always entirely accepting of you, and what to do when your feelings on people you love are complicated a little bit more. It's just such a sweet and amazing book. It's super short, but it deals with such important themes. And to do it as a middle grade, it's amazing. Not that middle grade can't do this stuff, but this stuff is so needed in middle grade that I respect this book so much. King of the Dragonflies, Case and Calendar, wonderful book. So that's my first one for this. My second one for this is Lilani of the Distant Sea by Erin and Trota Kelly. This is a middle grade, folkloric type fantasy. We follow this girl named Lilani who, this deals with a lot of things. It really is told like a folklore, like a piece of folklore. It's kind of long and winding of a tale that changes, so it's really hard to describe the plot exactly, but it also has so many important themes, and the way it is written is honestly literary. I have never read a middle grade book that is written like this or is trying to accomplish what this is trying to accomplish. This also is a very vivid setting, by the way, as you can see by this very nice cover. The themes this deals with are sexism and how it affects both girls and boys, how it is learned young, beauty and how that ties in, health and sickness, what makes a good working society, what is the best way to protect your people. There is so much here. Luck, there's just so many themes that I think are so wonderful. Again, grief and loss is also another one. What happens when you die is another one. I think that, I mean, there's just so many things tackled in this book, in this like long piece of folklore that's told in just almost like the most literary way. There's also beautiful illustrations without like this, and there's also pieces where we go into second person, like and it kind of puts you in the perspective of someone that you would not have been in otherwise for that bit of the story. And so if you hate second person, it's in here, but honestly, I think it was done very, very well. I think it adds just a very experimental, amazing part of this book. And so I think that both of these books are fantastic for talking to middle graders about tough topics and introducing them to them in an accessible way. These books they're so good. I highly, highly, highly recommend them. I cannot recommend them enough. These are both books that if I become a middle school teacher, I would feel totally comfortable teaching, because they have so much to talk about. Every sentence is like something you can get out of it for both of these books. All right, next one. Fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. I've not really read very much nonfiction this year, and that's really sad because there's lots that are on my radar now. But one that I just did read is Night by Elie Wiesel. And if you've never read Night by Elie Wiesel, I highly recommend it. It is a memoir of a man named Elie who, when he was a child, he was in the Holocaust. He was taken to a concentration camp with his family. And it is heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, angering. Just it's a rough book to read. It's a hard book to read. And I don't think it taught me something in that I learned very much new about the Holocaust at that time, because I do think I knew the facts of it. Like I have taken very many classes on the Holocaust. I've read very many books about it. Like I know this time of history very well. However, there is nothing like learning a personal narrative when it comes to something like this. So that's what it taught me. It taught me I will never be able to imagine what Elie and his family went through, ever. And I hope that most people will never be able to imagine that. But it did teach me about this experience. And there's just so many things about humanity and dehumanization and rehumanization, and just so many things that are explored that I recommend it, obviously. But it's a very hard book, so know when you go into it. Number 4, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family / household / friend group that you'd like to be a part of. So I did this tag last year, which I will link. I didn't have an answer, a very good answer last year. I think I said the Bennets and like the Weasleys and some other fictional families that I liked. But there's never been a family or a friend group that I was like, I want to be with you, until I read On a Sunbeam. This is very much a found family story. Like, it is 100% the trope of found family. We are using the word for the trope correctly. And it's a wonderful story. It's a beautifully told story. I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of my favorite books ever now. It's a graphic novel, so it's full of illustrations, and it's just so full. Like, sometimes graphic novels or comics, they do come in volumes, so it takes a lot longer to get a full story. On a Sunbeam is very long. I think it is like 2 or 3 like parts kind of put into one, and it just feels so complete and so full. And I feel like I fully get to know all of these characters. I fully get to love them. I fully get a complicated plot. I get a dual timeline, which is harder to do as well when you have less space and less time. Everything is just so intentionally crafted about this graphic novel. I cannot stress that enough. This does have a plot. It's also very character-driven graphic novel. It's about a girl who joins this kind of found family team that works repairing different places on different planets. And as she's traveling around with them, you're getting flashbacks to her school days, and she's trying to find her school girlfriend. And that's all I really want to say about it. It took me a bit to get into it, but oh my gosh, once I was in it, it had me and it never let me go. And I love every character. I love this found family that they have created. It is so beautiful. I promise you, if you read it, you will see that this family is amazing. The colorful leaves are piling up on the ground, show us a pile of fall-colored spines. So you can't really see, you can see a little bit if I move. I made my high fantasy shelf rainbow. I know that's gonna piss some people off, but I made my high fantasy shelf rainbow. So because I have so little of it, like I've either loaned it out or I have read it on audio, or I haven't read it yet. I have a whole bunch of unread ones over there. So it'll be filling out a little bit more. But for now, I have it in rainbow with all the ones I have read, except for the Silmarillion. I will put some B-roll footage or something right here. Fall colored spines. Yay. So number 6, fall is a perfect time for storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. Okay, so I have a couple answers for this. The first one is kind of the most obvious, I think, and that's Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a story of a man named Quoth. It's Quoth, but I say Quoth because I just feel like it should be Quoth, but it's not, it's Quoth. So it's about his story. He tells it over the course of 3 days. 3 books in the series are supposed to be the 3 days. We've only gotten 2 days. I think Quoth might need a few more days, to be honest, but it's still really good so far. I'm reading this currently. I really like it. So that is the one I picked for this one. And then also the Stormlight Archive is all like stories being told at some point. Like all of them are named after different books. Oathbringer is the main one that's like a story being told. So they kind of count, but the Name of the Wind is the one that really counts, really. Okay, so number 7, The Nights Are Getting Darker. Share a dark, creepy read. Okay, so you can't really see it up here, but this is my like dark and creepy shelf. I even moved my classics that are dark and creepy, some of them, not all of them, to be a part of this shelf, and it's all red, white, and black. I'm very excited about this shelf. And so the 2 that I'm going to pick from it, Into the Drowning Deep and Carmilla. So these are both horror books. Into the Drowning Deep is like a sci-fi type horror about killer mermaids. I love this book so much. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It is so good. And then we also have Carmilla, which is about a female vampire, the sort of female side of vampire lore, and it is brilliant. Both of these were 5 stars and they are favorites. I love them. Number 8, The Days Are Getting Colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. Okay, so I have a couple of these. The first one is Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. This is the first book to Drowned Country, which I talked about in question 1. This is tiny. Look at this short little novella, and it is about a green man. It's about it's like the Green Man folklore type thing. It's about a man who has power over the nature around him. That's what the Green Man kind of myth is, and his name is Tobias Finch. And in the property of his forest, there's a house and a man named, why am I forgetting his name? Henry Silver, Silver in the Wood, acquires this house and moves into it. And so they strike up a friendship, but as summer is approaching, or fall, danger is afoot. And it is a wonderful read for this time of year, honestly, because it's so like foresty and woodsy. And so I really loved this book. It's really, really sweet, and I think it could cheer up. It's really easy to read, so it would cheer up somebody's stormy day. Another one that's even easier to read because it's like a graphic novel is the T Dragon series. I love this series. If you didn't know, I'm obsessed with them, and this is my favorite one, T Dragon Festival. This one is also much more of a standalone story than the other 2 are. The T Dragon Society, which is the first one, is kind of, it feels like a good introduction, but it doesn't really have too much story other than getting to know the characters and getting to know the dragons and stuff. And so it was kind of lacking a little bit. This is the second one that came out, the T Dragon Festival, and this is a prequel about different characters, and it is stunning. 5 stars, amazing. And then the third one and final one is the T Dragon Tapestry, which follows directly after T Dragon Society, and it is honestly kind of what the T Dragon Society was leading up to. So I highly recommend reading those like together, back to back if you can. But this one you can read before T Dragon or after T Dragon. I would say maybe after suited me very well, but I also think it's fine to read it whenever. And this has a very fall kind of vibe. It has like trees, as you can see, that are like losing their leaves. So it's like beginning of fall type of vibe. So I highly recommend the T Dragon Society series. And then another one that is also very heartwarming and sweet to me and so good, I love it so much, is the City of Ghosts series that includes City of Ghosts, Tunnel of Bones, and Bridge of Souls. That's the only 3 we have out so far, and they're about this girl who has a ghost best friend, and her parents are paranormal investigators, but they don't know that she can really see ghosts, but she can, and so she just sees ghosts and gets into a bunch of adventures. It is so good. It is so wonderful, so heartwarming. I adore it. If that can't cheer you up, I don't know what will. Fall returns every year. Name an old favorite you'd like to return to soon. You know, I like to reread, but I've honestly been out of a rereading mood. Like, I've wanted to read new stuff for a long time. I think that I will eventually reread the series, and I did get like a hankering to reread it as I was reorganizing my bookshelf the other day, and that is like the Cosmere, Mistborn, Stormlight in general. And I don't know whether I have a feeling that I want to reread it or if I want to experience it for the first time again, which is not possible, I know, but I love the Cosmere. I love Brandon Sanderson. These are some of my favorite books ever. That's why they're on front display, but I would really like to reread those at some point, but I don't think it'll be in the next year or so. Because I find that if I don't wait long enough to forget a lot of things, then I may not enjoy the series as much, and I don't want that to happen to the series. I want to give it as fighting a chance for me to still love it as possible. And number 10, fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. My favorite cozy reading accessories are just a blanket. I love blankets. I like to be cozy. I like sweaters. I like things that are soft. All right, so that was a finally fall book tag. If you want to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. Do it in the comments. Do it in a video response. I don't care. I would love to hear your answers, and I will see you in one of my next videos. Bye.